You might find this hard to believe, but the Miami Heat find themselves to be underdogs yet again. And this time, it's pretty egregious, as the Nuggets are about minus 400 favorites, which translates to an 80% win probability by Vegas. So it would be a bit of an understatement to say that this appears to be a one-sided matchup. I'm going to give both sides of this matchup though, and to start off, I think this is going to be a little bit closer than the betting lines would suggest, because first and foremost, to give you the background of these teams, how they got here, Miami has been far more battle tested as the 8th seed in the East than the Nuggets have as the 1 seed, because the playoff system works. It rewards you for having a good regular season, and thereby the Nuggets have benefited in the matchups they've had. Minnesota is not a very good team, and that was their first round matchup. Inversely for Miami, their first round matchup was perhaps the best team in the entire NBA in Milwaukee. So that kind of puts it into perspective as to what these teams have been dealing with. And of course, the gap kind of closed as the rounds went on, as the Suns are no joke. You have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, obviously, but there was little beyond them, and I would say they still were better than the Knicks, but in their final matchups, the conference finals, I would say it was so far and away harder for the Heat than it was for Denver, because the Lakers are a good team, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily a great team. And in the case of the Celtics, if you didn't think that the Bucks were the best team in the NBA, you probably thought it was the Celtics. So the Heat are far more battle tested, and I think that actually bodes really nicely for them because they've been forced to be at their best. Whereas Denver has been allowed to kind of coast a bit, which is nice. It lets you not put as much wear and tear in your body. You have easier series that are done with quicker. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for Miami. They've had to play more and they've had to play harder, so there's more fatigue on the body, but they've also gotten to see what it's like to be in these hard series. And I think this is going to be another hard series for them, but it'll also be difficult for Denver, and Denver hasn't had to be at their best quite the same. In addition to that, Miami also has help on the way in the form of Tyler Hero, who's missed basically the entire playoffs so far. Miami has been doing this without their possibly second best player. I would say he's their third best, but he's a 20-point scorer nonetheless. And that's something Miami's really been missing because their offense is not really their biggest strength anyways. And to do it without Tyler Hero is just a lot more strain on Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin, who's taken strides this year. Another thing Miami has working in their favor is history is on their side, insofar as Miami had the 9th best defensive rating this season, and Denver had the 15th best rating. Usually, championship teams are in the top 10 for defense, so it's not a huge gap between them and Denver, but I would definitely feel more confident in Miami's defense than Denver's, just because there's also less liabilities on that side of the ball for Miami. So they have a better season to behold, but also matchup hunting. Jimmy Butler will be able to go at Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. There's not really somebody you can attack like that for Denver aside from Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson in the very limited minutes he's going to get. So it's going to be harder to matchup hunt for Denver. As you could probably figure though, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for Miami, and I want to start out by saying Jimmy Butler in the playoffs is a different animal than him in the regular season, but even with that being the case, I still have a lot more confidence in Jokic than I do Butler, just because Jokic, at this point, his bad games are still incredibly efficient, good games where maybe he's not scoring as many points as you would like, but he's still scoring, and he's also getting about 10 assists and honestly probably like 15 rebounds. So he gives you such a nice baseline of play, and I don't think Butler really does that. When Butler had off nights against the Celtics, he was basically completely removed from the game, and I would say their peaks are about the same. So I like Jokic in this matchup, and that's with Bam Adebayo being a premier defender. I think Adebayo doesn't match up as nicely with Jokic as you would expect for a great center on center matchup, as Adebayo is giving up a ton of weight to Jokic, and I could see Jokic pushing him around quite a bit. So they're going to have to help off of Adebayo, I would say. And that's just not great because Jokic is going to be able to find the open man basically every time. So that's one thing that's really in Denver's favor, is they're going to have the best player in the series in my eyes. I would also say that even though Miami has the better team defense, I still trust Jamal Murray more against a good defender than Tyler Hero on, say, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, because just matchup-wise, KCP is a really good defender. So even if the Nuggets don't have the best team defense, they actually match up pretty nicely against the Heat in my eyes, because KCP can limit Hero, and Aaron Gordon I think is a great matchup for Jimmy Butler because Gordon is not going to get pushed around, and really I don't fear Jimmy Butler from three very much. So I think you have the best player, and then your second best player is better than Miami's second best player as well. So that's a lot of the battle right there, is just having more talent than the other team, as simple as that may seem. Coaching wise, I would say that Spoelstra is the better coach in the matchup. I think Spoelstra might be the best coach in the entire NBA. But Mike Malone, or Michael Malone as he likes to be called, is no slouch, as when the Lakers were coming out with some wacky adjustments to defend Jokic with Hachimura, they weren't really fazed by it, Denver, for very long, and really they were able to continue rolling with the punches throughout the entire series as the Lakers tried in desperation to change basically anything they could to give them a chance. And I think that's going to be the case again here. I think Denver, they just have more talent than Miami, and I don't think coaching will be as big of a factor as it otherwise could be, because I think the Nuggets know about as nicely as any team in the NBA exactly what they are. They want to run a lot of two-man duo with Jamal Murray and Jokic, and I think they're going to be able to do that really effectively, basically regardless of the defense, just because they're so supremely talented. And I don't think they're going to waver from what they know works. So I don't think the coaching will be too much of an issue for Denver. I again give the edge to Miami, but I don't think it's going to be enough to close the talent gap that exists between these two teams. And to wrap that up, Denver was the number one ranked offense in efficiency against zone defenses. So the biggest advantage that Miami has coaching-wise, which is their ability to teach defenses and ensure that they're going to have a quality defense against any offense, is not going to be as strong as it should be, because Denver knows how to attack it. And in addition to that, zone defenses are more susceptible to giving up offensive rebounds than man coverages. And again, the Nuggets are going to be able to pounce on that because Jokic is such a great rebounder that if he's not really being guarded by somebody and boxed out, he's going to get basically every rebound, and that's going to pretty much nullify the Heat defense just right there. In all, I do think that Miami has a puncher's chance, and it's not like this series is already decided. Miami is very much a good team. If they weren't, they wouldn't have beaten all of these great teams en route to the NBA Finals. But the Nuggets have been arguably the best team this entire season. And they really haven't gotten a ton of credit for it just because they're kind of a small market that doesn't really get focused on. The ESPN just wants to look at the Lakers and those big teams that everybody loves. But Denver has quietly been legit this entire year, and I don't see that stopping now. You could say that the Heat have beaten similarly skilled teams, but I think Denver has the best mix of coaching prowess and roster talent out of any of the teams they've faced so far, and I think that's why it's going to be enough for Denver to win this series. I think Denver wins in 6, but I could also see it in 5, honestly. I don't see this being a sweep, but I don't think Denver is going to let this one escape their grasp. Those are my thoughts on this series, though. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section, and also be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA and NFL content.